Why, hello there, and welcome to another episode of Making It the Track on the YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help your struggling artists, with exposure bucks, as that's what we all work for nowadays, and, possible payments for performances, stuff like that. Don't mean to be all sour about it, but it's kind of some of the realities nowadays, but I do it because I like doing it, and it's all a journey. And, you're a struggling artist. That's just how it works, right? Art is priceless, at the same time inexpensive. Doesn't mean anything until someone starts liking your stuff, right? Which is great. And there's process coming through with what I feel I'm doing. The reason why I'm kind of blabbing on with this is because there's always a story behind a track on how it's made, and that's what I'm here to say, is that really I've tried to shop this record as much as possible out to different avenues with different labels. This is much of a sound from my release on Move On Me, which was on Stereophonic, which was a real cool signing to get, and this is from going to music conferences and meeting people and shaking hands, and that's what it's just all about. And what am I saying? Yeah, and that's what it's all about, is, making these connections in the game. With people, and doing that. This record is kind of just a pattern of formulas that I work with within composing, and I have, there's a record called Natural, Live Your Life, which is on my label Fusion Groove, and this one, The Way You Look, is also on Fusion Groove as well. And yeah, like I'm saying, this I'm just trying to do multitask right now. But yeah, let's get into the DAW, maybe something a little less boring of just kind of looking at me right now. Let's kind of slim down the screen a little bit. No one wants to see that big of me. But yeah, as you know, most of my records... Oh, great. You can hold on there, butthole. Just a friend of mine. Most of the records that I make, they all just like involve going through an SSL summing mixer and stuff like that. I'm wondering, with this record, I'm looking if I have any settings here. I kind of feel like there isn't. As I'm seeing here, usually I will put the settings of my analog equipment, and I feel with this record probably that I had probably just let it run through on the bypass on my Pultec and then run through the SSL. Cool story about this record was made 2023 of January 20th. Yeah, which is a couple years old now, and this is kind of the deal. What happens in music is that your tracks will be done, and they'll just sit around and collect dust and just release them, right? You don't know what's going to happen once they're released in the world, but let's kind of start with the printout. And as you see here, there's just drums, and your instruments, bass, keyboard, organ, the melody, which I call mellow or whatever, and just different effects and risers. And then after that, it gets printed out into the tube mix here. And you'll see here. Nope, don't want to record. So on the basically, this is like a light master per se, because I still have like I hit everything at minus 6 dB of headroom for the mastering engineer to pull it up to 0 dB and add their touches of compression and EQ, maybe brighten up the mix. I honestly think the engineer that I work with, just does very subtle moves from 3 dB moves to maybe 1 or 2, which is what mastering is all about. What mastering is all about. But I do my own little mastering touch in here. I basically put 200 hertz in the side signals, which is just blocking off anything that's kind of a stereo image that's bassy. Your basses should be typically planned mono because there's so much energy to them. And most things that sit mono in my mix are usually a kick and a bass line and vocals, but it doesn't get summed as mono in my SSL here. But yeah, then we go on to the Safara, which is I would say this is kind of like a saturator per se. You can see here there's like tape and stuff. I just put on a preset and it gives it a nice per se light bell shelf, which it kind of looks like. I'm just kind of boosting it up, giving it some sweetness and 3D with the even and odd harmonics, which is towards like the side signals and stuff like that. You can even hear it here. And it's just brightening things up, nothing too crazy. If you're sitting it's best to really watch what I'm doing and listening on your computer rather than your phone, especially studio monitors. You're definitely not going to hear the difference as to what is happening or what are the improvements. And then we move on to the what is it? The what goes on with I'm kind of busy right now. You're gonna have to wait. What goes on with the saturator here? Sorry, this is my kid kind of bothering me for something. But here I have my Magma tubes, right? Which is I'm using the Beauty and the B. So this is more focused on more like high end, and this is more focused on low end. And, what I've done is kind of controlled the volume in the SSL and bring down some headroom so I can kind of boost things up. And just giving it more color and stuff. Like here's like with it and without. Right, everything turns quite just dry and boring. And it's another saturator. I use a lot of different saturators to bring life to my mixes. Which I kind of feel what's best. Then we just kind of bass room set to Dance Pop Guru. I don't usually, you can use this in many ways. This thing from Tom Fratman, this plugin, Master in the Mix, and you can kind of analyze tracks and copy the bass lines and stuff like that. I'd rather just use the analyzer that's in here of just like copying, per se, many different algorithms from different engineers. I would think that it comes from mixes, and just balance things out from the plugin in here rather than copy someone else's, because I think it's just going to read it differently. That's not the case. You can use it how you want it. That's just how I like to use it. But yeah, it's just correcting many things, and then Mix Room's also correcting many things, and this is basically what this sounds like without it, and then with it. Right, it really just smoothed things out. I kind of felt my mix sounded a little boxy, right? Whoops. Right, and I think it just overall gives it a more flattened balance of a mix, right? Flattens things out and balances things out. And yeah, I mean, as far as it is, we can kind of move on more into the actual mix here. Let's kind of unmute everything. Welcome to Pro Tools, where anything can go wrong. So with the kick, I've taken away certain things and just done some subtractive EQ here, and used mono and fab filter, and then I probably had processed this with an SSL, probably going at 100 hertz, and using a saturator. I forgot what saturator I used, but I was using a saturator probably on the kick, turning things down to pleasingly give it a good harmonic distortion, and then, balancing things. As you can see, like even the volume here is like pushed up to plus 0.76 for me, doing gain staging within the DAW. This is set at 0, and usually when you gain stage and then print things out, Pro Tools will set it back to Unity, which is Unity is 0. But yeah, that's what's happening to the kick. And then on the clap, we have some subtractive EQ, and then here we have more boosting of the signal, and just 1 second. Some more boosting of the signal with the clap here, with the Harrison. I always use this because this is used on many great records, and it's still a great console. I think consoles are great. If I can afford one, I would have one. But spent them on a CDJ. Stupid. Just kidding. That setup back there could have bought me an API console, which I would have loved to have in here. But then I think it would probably range around probably 10 grand to wire, which probably it wouldn't be wired for a while. Yeah, because a lot of running cables back and forth. Probably have to remove the room, but let's get off of that subject. Yeah, so kind of just boosting things here. I think, boosting things at 4 dB here, and maybe this is probably around 300 kilohertz, so it's kind of like a low mid sound to give more body to the clap. And here 6 at the mids, and then 6 here. I actually did nothing here, so sorry. And we're only boosting 2 to 3 dB here. Yeah, you can hear like a little difference. It's not super different, but it's something. You can just hear that it's just a little more cool sonic character, as most things that when you're mixing, it's just little bits of stuff. And honestly, this was mixed in 2023, so there's some things in here that I'm just like, what? Why am I doing this, and why would I do that? It's just that, yeah. I feel like some of these, like, I would make these choices now, but it's all your ears, right? Follow your ears. But here's the compressor I added there. I feel it just brings stuff out in the mix as well. I mean, you can even hear with it when I kind of take it out. I love the way you look tonight. Right? The clap just sits behind the mix rather than being up front, and this is pan mono, but it is not ideally pan mono in the SSL. It's in a stereo frequency, but it's still technically pan mono within Pro Tools, so it's doing what it's supposed to do in the sense of just being mono. But if I was to have more control of a mono signal, things I've heard, like when you do something like with the mono thing here, it's like it all of a sudden boosts at another 3 dB more, because you're adding more energy to it when something's mono per se. And then here we have like the other clap here, which is, this is the kind of off time clap. Right. I'm using a thing called snapback now, which gives things way more movement and just really cool. It's just really cool shit. I'm sure I'll be able to showcase the snapback soon enough. Problem is just like Pro Tools doesn't process it where you can kind of keep it, so you got to like print it out, which is real shitty in a way. I kind of feel like I should probably maybe do more lives again while producing, because I just start doing things on the fly, and I feel people would learn from that. Probably making mistakes, but, be cleared up after, but that's kind of what producing records are about. But, again, I'm using the Harrison on this off-time clap. Still doing like the same settings, it looks like, and then giving compression, some peak reduction, which is like compression stuff, kind of the same as before. And then we have like another off-time clap, which you can see here just hits on. Here's like the main clap here, and the secondary off-time, and the third off-time, which is just more of like, yeah, it sounds weird, but sounds cool with everything. Right. And then we have the hi-hat. Nothing crazy. Just probably taking frequencies off. I probably did this because it was probably off balance for some reason. Yeah, it looks like the VUs are showing that like the right's getting more signal versus when I'm pushing this, it's getting like more of like I wanted a more balanced stereo field at the hi-hat to be heard in each speaker properly. Then just giving it a stereo field a bit more, right? Panning things at 30, which is, I look at everything when you're mixing a track, it's like this, right? And then you're closing things up. Just look, like this diagram here, like that's this right here. It's like that's what your whole track's living in, right? And, the hi-hat's just living in here, per se. Then we have percussion, right? Just some cool shit. I love the way you look tonight. Right, just adding to the cooking, and nothing fancy, right? Hi-hats don't need more EQ; they need less. So just take out the things, less energy out, gives other things more room to breathe. And then we have the good old hi-hat, just right. Seems like I had probably printed a side chain in it because probably there was some problems with other things not getting enough power to the mix. Then we have the snare. Gotta love the sound of this snare. Taking things out, adding things in, using the distressor, right? With seven attacks, 6, 5 point something for release, and the output. I do like using this snare drum crack preset and then moving things around, which a lot of people don't advise in the game to be doing stuff like that. Pitch shifter for more this area here. Right? My mustache got in the way. And then trim, just like at this build up here. And then some drum loops that are EQ'd down just to take all the bad mumbo jumbo out, right? Just these are the different ones. I feel drum loops just give more groove to your drums, right? Right, that's 1. Third. I personally like using 2 now because I think the more stuff you have in a mix, it's more you're screwing with the diaphragm of the speaker. I feel like when you want the speaker, I feel like when you're mixing records, you want the speaker does this, right? You want the speaker for every hit of whatever's coming onto that speaker to push that energy out all the way it can and then release the energy out. The second that something new comes into the picture, the diaphragm will pull back, right? So the more things you have, the speaker's fighting to vibrate more and to push more. This is the reason why certain genres hit more, like rap music and hip hop hits so much more, because there's less going on. There's formulas of mixing dance music because of the side chaining and different side chaining of frequencies, which is going to make the speaker move more. Here we have just the cymbal. Great cymbal. Sounds great. I love the great cymbal. And then we have just a drum comp. Using the Shadow Hill one. And you can totally tell it's definitely changed a lot for what it is, right? So without it. You can just totally tell, like, the claps get more snappy. The kick has just a more in-pocket sound. Even the bass, I can't describe the bass right now, but just everything has more, it's more tucked and more compressed, and just everything is more better. Even though this is not affecting the bass, this is a drum bus, it's still, you can still hear a difference in the bass. It really, ideally, it's giving more room for the bass to breathe. Every little bit helps of certain things when you're adding compression, because things can just breathe better that way. Then we have the Manley, which on more like the lyrics and the instruments that's there, like the bass, the keyboard, the organ, and the melody that's there. The West Coast disco melody, You can kind of hear more of the sides having more color, which is like the pianos and the keyboards, just in that stereo image. You can hear more depth and I would say color of this. And this is just a preset of a stereo compression bus. I don't recommend people to be doing things like this. I feel like it's just me being lazy to get things done. And then here, like I'm going back to the drum bus, but more just subtractive mixing here, and more subtractive mixing in. Wow, look at this. Am I being that lazy? No. I'm more subtractive mixing in this with the instrumental auxiliary compression channel here. Then we have the bass line. Here, it's like I'm doing the same thing where I probably have 3 different bass lines within this, and I just don't want to dig into the session, and it's just going to take more time because there's time is money right now with my life. By the way, I've been working on another film set, doing sound as an assist on set, and so I'm on the island of Victoria, so I'm coming back and forth just to do this stuff for you guys, for you people. So here we have the bass line here. Side chaining, obviously. I was using the X for Records LFO, and here just subtractive mixing, and I don't remember what I did, but probably some saturation, making sure that there's no stereo signal within the bass line, and covering things up with this, which a lot of the time there's shouldn't be any of that kind of stereo signal, depending what kind of like sound you're using in that bass. And there is songs where I'm cutting things off and using kind of like bassy sounds to fill up in a stereo field, but not so much. But yeah, I really can't say what I did here, but that's whatever. As long as it's pan mono, you're EQing things out. You can go over more of some of my other videos that are a little more in depth of that stuff. And then with the keyboard, more to say piano, right? M1. Big difference, right? That's production right there, right? And here, subtracted mixing does big wonders. And then oil exciter, which is, I'd say it's a saturator per se. Just list, that is crazy. I love this plugin. I love it because it does so much. Just listening to that sound without it, it is nothing. Like, it's crazy for what that's doing, you know? And even, right, this is just no EQ. Like, it's a very ugly, dull sound, which, you know, which is balancing more out. And then using the Hitsville EQ here, this is what I love. Basically everything that I like doing is just subtracting with fab filters because it will give you more of an idea of what to cut, and then boosting things with UAD plugins because their recreations are accurate and they've been advertised that way. So here, just pulling the low mids up at 320, which is probably, I don't know if it's a bell or just a nice shelf within there, but if it is a shelf, it's kind of pulling along. So I would think it's a bell, maybe. Not sure percentage of what it would be. And then in the mids of 800 kilohertz, so given that the keyboard more body, high mids, more body at 2, which is more kind of like an annoying frequency, and then treble, which is 5K. Here's, right, it just molds its character, right? And this was all done when I don't do this. I don't solo, add EQ while it's soloed. It's all done within the mix, right? So I just like demonstrating in these videos that like what it does when it's soloed, just like the outcome, right? And then we have the Orion at the breakdown. Just heavy M1 sounds. I mean, it's the stuff that I love. Still using it. It's always used in that nostalgia of that classic house sound. That everyone seems to just, it makes people feel good. So yeah, we have the pumper here, and then we have just some Orion E, boosting things up at 5. And I guess I just didn't want to use any EQ. I just felt it was good enough to just give it a boost there, and just the low mids having it live, right? Mainly I feel because I wasn't using it. I think I only used the organ in this breakdown here. Yeah, so it's just like there's not a lot going on, so why should I start going crazy with EQ and stuff? Or exciter, obviously. So it just sounds so cloudy without it, right? Booyah. The tube tech compression. some heavy stuff going on per se, or not really. Like ratio is 2 to 1 or 1 to 1. I would say just 2 to 1. It's sitting at 2 to 1. It shows here, right? Your attack's kind of fast and kind of medium release, right? Just moving the needle the way I want to. I don't know. Just it tucks the character for other things to just come out, right? Then we get on to the melody, which is, I think, is probably a Serum preset. Just another West Coast disco classic from Cardano. Yeah. Oh, don't worry. Let's not. It's not. I'm not inventing another genre. Yeah. So just blocking the low end out that's not needed. Yeah, so there is some garbage there in the low end you can see, right? So it was the right decision to do. Just, so you can have more room for the bass to kick ass and the kick. Everything is subtle in mixing, and that's all you need. Sometimes some things get extreme, and if they do, it's the sound that you've picked why it's gotten so extreme. With EQ and stuff or compression. It all depends what you're going through in the situation, right? Much like life. We have the 1176 limiter amplifier. Really? I'm just doing it so it balances and tucks in the mix. Take a listen. Right? It has a more upfront sound, more predominant versus without it, it's not. And I feel because it's a melody, it's really got to kick ass and be out front, right? So like check it out without it, right? It does a big deal of like not giving you more impact, right? So check it out here. Boring, right? Versus you want this slap face sound, right? Just you want to get smacked in the face when you hear cool stuff. Then here, basically just your risers. I'm not gonna really go over this stuff because all it is effects. I'm not adding any compression. There is probably one where I've added like some side chaining for a reason. I'll go down the line, but everything's just kind of blocking out basic EQ and stuff and all that other crap. Let's see. Here, there we go. This had a sidechain sound with the pumper, and we can just add that there to show off for other people if I can find it in this large plugin library I have of just investing into this lifestyle of making music. Ew. Right? Nothing without it. Right? And that's just making the kick and bass hit in the mix more. Right, because it is on the 1 and the 4 of what the one knob's doing. I would prefer that was more kind of side chainish with the kick, but it's fine. I was using the X-For Records LFO, so it gave it a little more swing, but whatever. This thing does the job for what it does. Then the good old talk box that I love using. Well, not talk box, but the oh god, it's not even a talk box I have, but it just swings around my neck. The Electro Spit. So here we go. The way you look tonight.
I love the way you look tonight, tonight. I love the way you look
Some cool harmonies.
tonight, tonight, tonight. I love the way you look
Oh, great.
tonight, tonight, tonight.
And all my throat sounds. Yeah, not very pleasant to hear, but
The way you look tonight, tonight, tonight.
this definitely has a different tone than a traditional talk box because you don't have a tube in your mouth trying to like mouth words like blah, blah, blah. Oh god, I have a talk box and it probably should sell it without the tube, but it is so hard to use a talk box and it's like practice because you got a tube in your mouth trying to make words. Imagine just having something this fat in your mouth, right? Like my finger's pretty fat, and then stick it in your mouth and trying to talk words. Or trying to mouth words. It is so annoying to use. But the Electro Spit is awesome. Anyone can look them up and grab one for yourself. It's cool. And then more harmonies.
I love the way you look tonight, tonight, tonight. I love the way you look.
So ideally, everything is making a chord, right? I can't really tell you the exact notes because I'm not freaking a pitch genius or whatever. I don't have perfect pitch, so I can't tell you the exact notes that I'm playing within this. It's all ear, right? So
I love the way you look tonight,
it's like, oh yeah.
tonight. I love the way you look
And it's probably a real low one.
tonight, tonight, tonight. I love the way you look tonight, tonight, tonight.
And then we could probably get into more like the EQ, or let's get into the effects of it. So just verb and delay, pretty simple, right? Using the Hitsville chamber, which is just great on Motown Records. I wonder if I did any cool. Let's kind of dig in. Did I do any pans? No. There was a thing that I did with pans before, like if I had a mono signal, I would make the Hitsville go mono and then stereo. There's some tracks that I did it on, and it gives it more. It just gives it a lot of depth with what's going on, and every track's different. But yeah, just basically picking a room, picking the mics, microphones, the 44 here. I forgot what company makes this again. But using is it RCA? I don't know. One of those companies. And then I don't even want to educate all this stuff with Hitsville. I don't feel like doing it right now. Because I got stuff to do around the house. But yeah, I choose this. And then just taking out some frequencies that you don't want.
Way you look tonight, tonight, tonight. Way you look tonight.
See, it's interesting using subtractive EQ because certain things punch out of the mix more, and I kind of feel like the lows, like harmonies that I did, kind of punch out a little more. And then we have like a side chain, so whenever something comes in, the reverb, it will suppress things down and give like the reverb more room within the sound.
Way you look tonight, tonight, tonight.
Like everything becomes more in your face with it. And then we just have some chord delay, just 1 second of delay, right?
The way you look tonight,
Right.
tonight.
Way more movement.
I love the way you look.
Just way more movement, tone, and brightness that's added within that plugin. And then there's just more effects here. Magma push, just more saturation to the vocal. organ using the AMS effects box, just a plate. Some more subtractive EQ on the organ, and same thing, compression coming in, side chaining to make the effects come out more. H delay with a ping pong. So whenever the keyboard's playing, it's just adding this more ear candy. Side chaining again. Little plate with the keyboard. I haven't bothered to upgrade this because it was more of a thing, but who cares? It's something from Sound Toys. Cool plugin. Don't care that I don't have it anymore. Sorry. 1/8 notes for the piano because it just sounds cool when it's doing like a staccato thing. The bam 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 bam. I don't know if I gotta show an example, but there's only so much time. Right, so without it, sounds like doo-doo, and it's just like it adds a really cool like tick 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 with it, right? And then just H delay with a 1/4 H delay with the melody. So we're almost done, but let's just get in more of the EQ that I did with the vocal and really just cutting thing off at 200 hertz and just getting some mud out of there with like the low mids and the mids and the highs, some parts of the highs that were annoying. This was probably done on this microphone, most likely. I probably might have used the 58, but I feel like I was using this because it's hooked up and it's just ready to go. And I think, using a dynamic mic on the top box, a lot of people do because of just certain frequencies like that. You're turning up the preamp so much that there's just every sibilance is getting in there. It can get quite harsh, and you can even hear it with in these tracks here, right? So probably a 58 is better to use than this SM7, which is traditionally be, which this is a clone of, but it's a PD7, which is the clone of the SM7B, I think. Then here, I love the Sheps plugin. I just use it all the time. Saturating with even, no gate being used. 800 kilohertz with the de-essing, and then the second de-esser is more sitting at 6. Just a little bit of a shelf EQ, mid bell curve, 4 dB and 5K. Then just tone of pulling things back, that's about it. FET compressor, oh god, ratio 2:6 per se, attack, slow and fast release. Yeah, and it's probably kind of done all the way around the map with this. So let's go to a bigger screen and back to the single here, so I can look you in the eye. But yeah, the link will be in the bio to pre-save. I love if you can get a copy because it would help this artist right here for exposure bucks. But please be awesome if you can pre-save and play this track. It's got a loungy feel, and that's the stuff I love to play. It's been an interesting year, but this journey is all about ups and downs, and there's some cool stuff coming down the pipe and some really cool stuff this year. I really love doing this channel because I can really express to people just stories about this career rather than doing on Instagram. It kind of feels more sacred here rather than on Instagram. And I just make it very raw and uncut, and it's great. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that stuff. And I guess I'll see you later. Thanks for tuning in, and I'm so appreciative of the support that I get for doing this, and I hope you've enjoyed the video and possibly you learned something. Bye-bye.